Welcome to Fireside Chat, a podcast where we embark on a journey of curiosity and exploration. I'm Sue Hanley, your host and fellow knowledge enthusiast, and I couldn't be more thrilled to have you sit alongside me. From my time at University of Toronto, I've been captivated by science, psychology, and the untapped powers of our minds. While earning a Bachelor of Science, I found that the psychology courses I was taking were really my favorites. The mysteries of the universe, the complexities of human behavior, and the immense potential within each of us have always inspired me. I took many psychology courses and really became fascinated with physiological and developmental psychology. I was learning about physiological psychology, and I remember one of the textbooks. It's this little paperback book, and it had a funny name. It was called The Sheep Brain, A Basic Guide. And I always thought that was funny because for the lab, we had to dissect sheep brains and identify the different elements and name things and things like that. So we actually used that textbook because sometimes when you take a class, you buy the textbook and you never use it. But the sheep brain book, yeah, we totally used it that day. So I would like to say, I want to explore, interesting things that I always wonder about, like talk about personality and talk about motivation and belief and emotions. There's so many topics inside of psychology that are very interesting and they continue to be developed. So I also think it's interesting to read about studies that are fascinating, that affect us, and that inform, what we can do to help ourselves to evolve, to achieve a higher version of ourselves. And I think that that's important. I think it's really important to find what it is that you would like to teach, something that you're really good at, that feels effortless for you, and then share that. And so we all have to find that thing. And some people are lucky, they find it when they're young or when they're children, and they end up, that becomes something that they take with them through their life, and it brings them really nice, like comfort and a kind of way of achieving peace and of actually calms you down, and it provides a way to de-stress, when things get overwhelming. So in my spare time, I like to watch YouTube channels that cover true crime, murder mysteries, and lately I've been interested in criminal law, the justice system, how the courts work, things like that. I love to play board games and Dungeons and Dragons, and we'll definitely be playing games and conducting Dungeons and Dragon campaigns here live. I think that would be really fun. I attend astronomy meetings for fun of the Warren Astronomy Society, and we have meetings at Cranbrook Educational Community once a month. We also have meetings at Macomb Community College once a month, and we have an observatory where they built like a building that has a metal, like domed roof, and it opens and it rotates so that the telescope that's looking through it, we can train it on an object. And then it's very finely tuned. You can imagine what it is to set up a telescope like that. But the people that are members of the Astronomy Society are the most humble people. They are so humble and they're so intelligent. So their talks will be about the history of telescopes or about famous discoveries, about eclipses and violent events that have happened. And it's really cool. We walk to a meeting and, they'll look up at the sky and they'll say, oh, there's N95. And you're thinking, what? So not only do they know, like, that's Saturn or whatever it is, but they can actually identify it by, like, the proper astronomy code. And so they're very modest about their genius, and they're very generous with their telescopes and with their knowledge. So we have a star party once a month at the Walcott um, Park. It's kind of like north. It's like 34 Mile and Romeo Plank, something like that. And we like to conduct, trainings and things like that for young people. So there's usually a Boy Scout group and people like that they're camping there. So then we invite them to the observatory. And I like to think that, wouldn't it be cool to have like an 8-year-old who, for the first time, looks through a telescope and sees Venus, and that changes them. And that begins a lifelong love of astronomy. So I love how much outreach they do. They go to events. And we had an event last month, and they called it Astronomy on the Beach. It's quite a well-attended event. There were over 2,000 people. And I've never been to one of those really big events. I'm so glad I went because NASA came. So NASA brought this 30-foot model of a rocket that everyone could take pictures beside. And they did a talk on the viewing of the 2024 total solar eclipse. So that's coming up April 8 next year. And the extraordinary thing is that we're in a band that is you get to see the total eclipse. So usually you have to go somewhere else, like Tucson or Santa Fe or something, and they get this amazing view. But for once, there's this band that is near us. And I think one of the places that we could view is, well, Quebec is really good. They get to see like 99% of it, but we're going to be able to see a lot of it. So I think it'd be really fun to set up maybe like a live stream. It's just a few minutes long, but it would be really nice if we could live stream that for everyone. So it was great. It was really great I've never met anyone who works at NASA, and that was that was interesting. So the person who was handing out eclipse glasses, I said to him, "So I know that there's the JPL lab. What do they do in the JPL lab?" And he said, "I actually don't know what they do in the JPL lab." And I thought, isn't that like your email address, keith@jpl.org or something? And I was like, well, maybe he's just handing out glasses, but luckily the person who was giving the talk was able to very clearly talk about phenomena and how to view safely and all kinds of things. So he was very knowledgeable. So it's really great. Like, you don't expect for NASA to come. That was amazing. So I have some pictures that I will show. One day we'll do a talk on astronomy. So I'll have one of the astronomy like presenters come and do a 20-minute talk for us, and we can talk about maybe something like geologic time or the distance between objects, the size of how incredibly unimaginably large these objects are. They call objects like planets and things like that. They say objects, so that's why I'm saying object. But it's very interesting to be with people who are just a lifelong love and dedication to science. So I think that's really, it's kind of the kind of people I like to hang out, with. So in the coming weeks, I'll be creating a YouTube channel. And in the meantime, I welcome your feedback at info@firesidechattv.com. Eventually, we will have YouTube lives. I'm very new at this, so I have to gather my courage and get more comfortable. But I hope that it will be, easier as I do this over time. And I look forward to interacting with you and listening to your suggestions. And I think it would be really great to have a two-way conversation about topics. So, here in our cozy virtual fireside, I invite you to join me as we delve into interesting topics that ignite our curiosity. Together, we will talk about the multi layers of the human mind, explore the frontiers of scientific discovery, and seek insights that spark personal growth. I think personal growth is something really important because we do want to somehow improve and learn and evolve. And I think that it's really great to share information, share studies that are being done so that it can inform, okay, this is what I'm going to do about this, or this is what I can do to help this problem. So I think it's important to have, experts that can comment on things. And so one of the shows coming up, we're going to talk about like difficulty in mental distress and trying to highlight where resources can be found. In Pontiac, there's a center that I think it would be really great to learn about, and we can find out what they do to offer services to people who are having a really challenging time. I think it's really important to talk about how we're doing mentally and emotionally because I feel that we can be more isolated and distanced than ever. And it's really important, especially if you live alone, to have connection, to have someone to talk with and maybe to cry with. And then you don't feel like you're doing everything alone. It can be a very lonely life if you don't have anyone that will listen and understand. So I think it's great that there's very qualified, dedicated centers that offer help. So I think that we're going to talk about augmented and virtual reality. There's some developers who would like to come on and talk about where they're going with their craft and what's coming up, what they're developing, and what they can share with us. And that's all right. We're happy to have a glimpse of where things are going. It's nice to be on the leading edge, I imagine. And I also will have someone who will come on and talk about a clinical study he did, and it was on the topic of evolutionary psychology. So that's quite unusual because there aren't a lot of people who really talk about studies in evolutionary psychology. So I'm very glad that he's going to be able to come and teach what he knows and what he's learned, especially through experimentation. We're also going to talk about financial mindset, and that's going to start in the next episode. So we'll have a few episodes about basics of financial literacy and just to kind of start with the basics, and then we can always do much more involved financial arbitrage with time. So I'm feeling that whether you're a lifelong learner, a seeker of knowledge, someone who likes to sit and talk about interesting topics, I think that we can find deeper meaning in the world around us. And I really want this podcast to be for you. I feel that I have children who we are in 3 different time zones. And so I thought it would be really nice to, in a sense, leave a legacy, do something about where I can convey things that I love and am interested in. Because when we talk on the phone or in Zoom, we kind of talk about our lives and we don't really talk about things that it would be nice to teach. Sometimes you feel like you want to leave them with the wisdom and the insights, the understanding that you've come um, to possess at this time of life. So, yeah, I'm really doing this for them, but I feel that there's many people who will give me show ideas or expand my mind and say, hey, we could look at this. And so I think that there's lots of really interesting places to go to. So I feel that we can, learn through games, through music, through creativity, and highlight in each other, teach each other what there is to understand in the world around us. So I'm thinking that we will continue to evolve, and hopefully I'll get more comfortable with time, but I'm very happy to be here. So happy to create something that we can create together and evolve together, because we want to be the most incredible self in our time here as we possibly can. And I think that the more information that we have to better ourselves, and sometimes learning can come from what not to do, from mistakes, because the brain can learn from experience, and it doesn't always have to be happy, sunshiny experience. It can be difficult things. It can be trials. It can be long-standing challenges that it require us to be creative and to think of solutions that sometimes, if you get away from a problem, but you have it running in your consciousness, sometimes the answer or the solution can come to you when you're kind of relaxed and you're not really thinking about it. And I think that it's a really good idea to just keep evolving, keep learning, and share with others what you're finding, what you find interesting, because there's going to be other people who also find it interesting. I'm really glad that I found the astronomy group, and similarly, I belong to a board game group in Toronto, Ontario, and they're such an incredibly dedicated group that they get together 3 times a week, every week, at different pubs and different places, restaurants, and get together and just play games for 3 hours. And we've done trips with members of the group. So there's usually a camping trip that we've had once a year, and gone to every gaming convention. There's one called Autonocon that's in Peterborough, Ontario, and it's very well attended. So when you go to these cons, you can buy and sell games. You can play new games that the game developers bring and show and teach, so that you could be perhaps the first people to play a game that's just coming out. They have Kickstarter games where they're still looking for feedback and watching to see how the game develops, sort of being played by actual people. And so the insights that they gain from learning how people use the game, interact with the game, and then also have comments and feedback about the game is incredibly important, because they can, it's not too late for them to change the structure or the aspects of the game before they spend the big money in printing and producing and putting it out in the world. So it's really great that these cons exist so that you can try new games. And sometimes they'll have kind of tournaments. So there's a game called Pandemic, and you have to stop a virus from spreading. And there's a map, and you pull cards, and when the card comes up, it's a certain country or area, and that is considered to be contaminated, or it's overrun by this virus. And so you're more in the role of a scientist or a hydrologist or someone who's an expert, and you're trying to stop the spread and combat the virus before it becomes a contagion. And so that's just an example of one of the games. And so my first ever tournament was at one of these conventions, and we almost won the game. So they had about 18 sets of each game. They had each game was the exact same scenario. So the cards that you'd pull would be the same for the other 17 tables. And so it's as if you're playing the same game, except you're playing against everybody else, and it's at the same time. So the person is telling you when to move your piece, and you're trying to guess what's the next city that's going to be contaminated, and you're trying to stop that from happening. And so it's really interesting. It's a heightened sense of urgency, I think, when you're playing in a tournament, because you really want to win. Like, everybody who goes to these conventions is really quite competitive, and they go to, really bring their best, their game, and so it's really fun to watch everyone. I kind of like just walking around and just looking at people playing their games and just saying, "Oh, that looks interesting," or "How does that work?" And people are happy to tell you this is how this game works. And even if you don't know how to play any of the games, it's okay, because board gamers, we want new people, so we're happy to explain a game. And so we kind of explain it to a certain extent that you can kind of start. And then as we're playing, we will give good advice and say, okay, you don't want to do that because this is what might happen. And definitely you want to collect this because this is like economic currency or something. And then you just kind of play it out. And that's really the best way to learn, is to play it. Even if you don't feel like you understand it all, or know, is this the best course of action? It's all right, because it's a game and everyone is just happy to play together. It's amazing. I think that it's really great to join a board game group if you have one, a meetup or something like that, because if you feel kind of socially anxious or shy, it's actually the best place to meet people, because you're sitting around a board, you're learning about the game, you're talking about the game, and you're with other people. And it's really easy to talk about the game as it's going on. So you don't have to wonder, oh gosh, what should I say to these people? And I don't know anybody, and I don't know this game, I don't know what I'm doing. It's perfectly all right, because everyone is there, and they've all been new as well, and are very generous and very patient, and really sincerely want to teach these games, because then you'll come back. They just want you to come back. So this board gaming group, they've been getting together for many years, and I hope that we have something here in Michigan. I hope that there's people that want to get together and play and learn, and just that socialize and talk about something that's in front of you, so you don't have to feel like you're socially skilled and comfortable and confident to go to play games with folks. So I think it's great that we have that kind of thing available to us. But I think that it's really been an interesting journey. I feel like science has always been something that is fascinating, is intriguing. It's always evolving, and there's constantly new ways of looking at things. And it's just really interesting to see where everything is going. Like the Artemis mission that they want to do, that they're planning to do, NASA, is, if all goes well, to land on the moon. And then if all of that goes well, to land on Mars. And I think that's extraordinary and audacious. And I think, my goodness, how incredibly intelligent are these people who design and train and create these missions. And when everything goes right, I can imagine that it's years and years of planning and problem solving and execution. So it must be a wonderful feeling indeed to have a mission go really well. But I know that you train for all the things that can go wrong. And hopefully they will be able to get to the moon again without incident. And it would be amazing to get to Mars. So I hope that we can see that in our lifetimes. And it would be incredibly inspiring because I feel that exploration and pushing past limits is something that we really all would be served by doing in our own lives. I think that we have to do things that scare us. I think we have to look fear in the face and do it anyway. And I'm like a shy person, so I never thought I would do this, but I just felt I want to leave a legacy for my children. And that's why I'm doing this. So it's just kind of an interesting way of leaving something of yourself that they can watch, and maybe there's things about me that they are just beginning to learn, like, oh, that's so interesting about, NASA at your astronomy event, and how interesting that, there's going to be a Motor City Con in Detroit in November. And that's definitely, there's some people who are coming from Star Trek and different shows like that, so that they can sign autographs and talk to audiences. So probably try to go to that. I think that would be really fun. And then just continue to highlight what is out there. And I'm looking forward to bringing guests and having discussions and talking about research and talking about just different topics about personality and motivation and success and different things that might be interesting to people. And so I'm really looking forward to going on this journey with you. And I welcome feedback. We will be doing the next couple of episodes are going to be about just the basics of finance, and then we will go from there. So I'm planning to eventually stream live, but I need to get better at this before I can do that. I can't imagine. But thank you, and talk to you soon.